Righto guys, so next point of call for the Cressy, because I've pretty much run out of stuff to do now, is going to be basically trying to sort out a seat. This is my Bride fixed back copy. It is a copy. It's the one that came out of my Skyline. I really like this seat. It's a copy, and it's, to be honest, it's not even actually a very good copy. It's got heaps of flex in it. It's not that great. But I will say that as a pretty tall guy that's kind of skinny, this seat hugs me perfectly. It's the perfect size, and the bolsters are actually at a good height for my shoulders. I've tried quite a few other seats, and especially the small sizes. I find the bolstering to be almost down like at the bottom of my shoulder blade, and I just find that a real pain in the ass as far as restrictions for movement and that sort of stuff. The other thing, like obviously this seat, actually my head is sort of sits on the seat rest. I've got some Sparkos up there, which I'm going to put one in the passenger seat, but the Sparko, the back of the seat actually only comes up to like the base of my head or my neck, which I really would not like to figure out what would happen there in the event of a backwards hit. So, although this is not a very good copy of a Bride, it's as far as dimensions go and seat comfort goes, I've not been able to find anything better. So if any of you guys could give me any tips or pointers on someone or a seat that is good for someone that's like kind of small, needs a small size seat but is also very tall, please let me know, because I would like to actually upgrade this seat to something a little bit better quality. But yeah, it's pretty hard to I'm having a lot of trouble finding one that's actually going to suit. But anyway, besides the point, this is going to go in for now. Obviously, it's alright, it's what I've got, budget drift car, so it's going to go in. So, here I've got the standard Cressida seat rail. I'm a big fan of using the standard rails. For one, I'm a big fan of adjustment. I like being able to adjust the seat forward and back, mostly just because it's just really handy. It's also good for if you want to let other people drive your car, that sort of thing. I'm not a huge fan of sitting right on the floor either, so I'm a big fan of using standard rails. That way you have forward and backwards measurement. You also are using the standard mount points for the seat, and it's cheap because they're already here. So I'm a big fan of doing that. So that's what I'm going to try to adapt my Bride fake to standard Cressida rails. Cressida seats are somewhat like Subaru seats, where the rails actually contain everything. It's not like a Silvia or a Skyline or something where it's just the rail and then the seat's its own thing. Like the rail contains the seat belt buckle, everything there. So obviously the Cressy will eventually get caged and harnesses. At this stage I'm not sure if that's going to happen before I'm ready to drive it yet. So I need to sort out something for seat belts in the meantime, because that may not happen for a little bit until after it's ready. So I've got here the rear seat belt buckles. Obviously these have an actual strap and a mounting hole, which I can use for the back seat mount post, and then can still use my conventional seat belts until I sort out a harness situation. So that's pretty much what I plan on doing here. So at the moment my plan is to pretty much cut off all this unnecessary stuff, cut it all off. In the Skyline I did just run the rails on those brackets and just bolted it to the standard points, and it wasn't too bad. So I'm not sure if I might just do that, or if I have like two little bits of strap that I might be able to like weld up and actually make it into a bit more of a frame situation. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm going to go on with at the moment, and hopefully get something sorted out as far as the seat goes. I wasn't really too worried about the seat at the moment because I still haven't got a clutch pedal set up, and I didn't really want it in the way until after I'd done that. But I've run out of stuff to do and out here, so I want to do something, so I may as well get it ready. It's pretty easy to bolt and unbolt to get the clutch in anyway, so that's what I'll work on. So this is what you're left with once you grind away all that other crap. It is a lot of grinding, like a lot of grinding, but then you got standard rails which you can actually mount stuff on. So anyway, I'm going to go bolt them into the car and then see how the Bride lines up on the rails and see what we're dealing with. Righto, so I mounted the rails. I actually had to steal the bolts out of the passenger side seat because I don't have any of the bolts to mount these. I do have them. I think I'll have some down somewhere, but it's raining and I couldn't be bothered going to look for them, so I just stole them for now. But these makeshift brackets that I had in the 31, these little seat brackets here, too narrow for these rails. So can't really go just bolting these on to the rails either way. So basically, at the moment, what I'm thinking, the seat is so light. Yeah, I've got 2 of these straps. These are just old J straps we used to use to keep cable tray lid down. So I'm thinking about, they've got like a bit of a divot in it, which is good for a seat. So I'm thinking about just sort of cleaning them up, flattening them out, and welding them to the top rail and building like a frame, and just make sure they line up with those, and that way I can actually weld them to the bases of these and have a full-on welded actual seat sort of rail, I suppose. I only had 1 bolt in these previously when they're in the 31 because I figured the actual seat's only held by 1 bolt anyway, but probably wouldn't mind just having it actually welded. It'd probably be a bit nicer, so that's what I'm thinking about doing at the moment. Alrighty, so I'm going to go and try ahead, we'll go ahead and try and build this sort of frame, because I quite like the idea of actually having a weld together seat frame on standard rails, is basically my idea. I'd rather that than have a bolt in one again, because bolts can work loose and that sort of thing. Welds are pretty well good. So anyway, all I've done is marked up these straps for where I want them, and basically just marked them up the areas that I really, because these are gal, I need to really clean them up before I can weld. You can't weld gal, it spatters and does all sorts of weird stuff. So anyway, I've cleaned them up, marked them, and just where on the rails and on these bits of strap that I actually need to clean up so that I can tack. And I'll clean up the bottom of the seat, the mounts on the bottom of the seats as well, and that way I can get it all in here and tack it all up in the car, and see how it's going to look and feel before I go pull it out and completely weld it in. So obviously it sucks having to use gal, trying to clean everything up to weld, because it takes ages. It's a real pain in the ass, but it's what we've got lying around and it costs us nothing. So that's sort of the trade-off, is that making this stuff pretty much costs me nothing. It's just that I've got to spend so much time actually cleaning up the gal so I can weld it. So anyway, basically now I'm going to bolt these rails back in and get the welder over there and start tacking up. So obviously welding over the top of your car carpet is very much not ideal. It is a fire hazard, so I keep a bucket of water handy. Also I have fire extinguishers handy if I require them. Make sure they're close, you know where they are, and yeah, just keep it to short tacks. All I want to do is tack this in here and make sure it sits right. After that I'll pull it out and properly weld it. Alrighty, so it's all tacked in. I've had a bit of a test fit, and it also, like, it seems almost a little bit odd. It seems like I'm still too offset towards the door. It feels like I should be further towards the center. That's sort of how the standard seat was offset as well. I did offset it quite a bit, if you don't mind my tacks. It was very uncomfortable to try and get down here and tack this in. But I'm actually a lot further over this rail than I am on this side. So I have offset the seat towards the center quite a bit, because I knew that's how the original seat was, but it sort of feels a little bit funny sitting here. So what I'm going to do is actually get my wheel and boss kit and just try it with my wheel and boss kit and see if it seems any better. If not, what I might do is probably, yeah, actually grind off the tacks and move it over a bit more, although I'm starting to run out of room on this side to even get a weld if I move it over more. So I'm hoping that when I put my deeper wheel with my boss kit on it, it'll feel a bit better, because setup in your bloody driving is sort of like a super personal thing. Everyone's sort of different. Personally, because I've got really long legs and quite tall, I like to have my wheel very far offset from the column, and I like to sit quite far back with my wheel quite far back with my legs pretty straight, and I like to have everything pretty close to me. So I like to have my shifter and my handbrake and everything pretty close. So I'll try it with my boss kit and my wheel, see if it feels any better. Hopefully it does. So this is my wheel setup. You probably recognize it from the Skyline. It's actually one of Liam's old wheels. It's an old GK Tech wheel that Liam had before he got a Nardi, and he actually did the sparkle paint job and everything on it himself, and I bought it off him back quite a while ago. I ran it in the Skyline, so that was a while ago. So as you can see, I run a quick release as well. I pretty much just run a quick release, firstly to get the extra distance from the column. As I just said, I like to space my wheel out quite a bit. Secondly, when you've got a fixed back seat, it just makes it a lot easier to get in and out of the car when you've got a quick release steering wheel. Because if you can piss your wheel off, you can get out a lot easier. So basically, yeah, as you can see, once you've got the Boss and the quick release and then the deep dish wheel, that spaces out quite a bit, which is good because it means I have heaps of space behind it for my knees, because my legs are real long. So with my wheel setup and a bit more tilt, it feels real good, actually. It feels real nice. I'm going to move my seat further towards the center. I'm still feel like real offset. I feel too far towards the door, and the bolster of the seat here is really catching on the B-pillar quite bad, which obviously is going to happen with these seats, but it's pretty severe. I'll try and, like, you can see how hard that's hitting the B-pillar there, and it just feels like it's too offset far to the door. I'm not feeling it. It's offset. I don't like it. So I'm going to grind off these tacks and try it again. So as you can see, I moved it over quite a bit from the last tack, probably a good sort of 35-40 mil, which is nice. Righto, so I'm pretty happy with the position is as far as the offset to the center. I'm pretty happy with where it sits at the moment. So I'm going to go ahead and probably weld this up. I'm going to have to cut these off and weld the actual bars first because of where they weld on. So because of where these brackets have ended up having to get welded, I'm going to have to grind them off so I can get a good weld on this bar before I actually weld them on top of it. So this is what I've ended up with. I really hate trying to weld galvanized steel. Yeah, it's just such a pain in the ass. Anyway, it's definitely not very pretty, but it's welded. It's pretty solid, so it'll do the job. It's certainly not pretty. I'm definitely gonna have to coat it in paint. So if you ever, checking out the Cressida at the track, don't have a look at this. Righto, so sitting position feels good. Now, put that in there. I sat in it and literally just threw myself into the back of the seat quite a few times. And as you can see, these are starting to get a fair bit of twist on the bottom, on these bottom rails. Like I threw myself pretty hard. Nothing's breaking. It's just that bit of twist. So I really do feel like these need like an extra bar across these two mounts to stop that movement forward and back. Just because that bar has a tendency to lay over there. So basically at this stage I might have some stuff out in the paddock to do it with, but it's all going to be gal, and honestly I'm just so over it. But anyway, I'll continue that another day. This is going to be the 6 or 7 hour seat mount build. In retrospect, probably better off just buying a frame. I'm pretty sure you can buy them from Excessive Manufacturing. But yeah, obviously, budget drift kart, doing it on a budget. This is going to work. It's going to cost less. Obviously, it just takes a lot more time to do it. So Anyway, guys, I'm going to continue that another day. For now, it's late. Another one of those hours on end in the dark of the night. Just so many hours go into building this sort of stuff, so I'm going to go to bed because I'm tired. I haven't had dinner yet, so I'm going to go have something to eat. And we'll catch yous next week. Thank you for watching. Righto, so I spent a fair bit of time last night thinking about this whole seat rail frame deal, and I think I am going to redo this. I'm going to completely basically redo this for a bit of a different design. I've got I think a better idea to make this a lot nicer, and actually go and buy some black steel instead of trying to use gal stuff. So I'm probably going to rebuild it. I'll just grind it off them rails and pretty much start again. The other thing is obviously where the flat bar meets the rail, there's not very much surface area because of the way that the rails are designed, so I'm going to make it so that it's like a bit of flat bar that actually bends down over the side of the rail, so you got more surface area to get good welds on it. And yeah, basically just put a fair bit more bracing and make it a bit better. So I'm going to redo that. So it's not over yet. There's going to be probably another episode where that shit happens. But anyway, when you're trying to build a car, this sort of things happen, and as I said, seating position's so personal and I'm pretty picky about it because it changes the whole feel of the car. So I really want it to feel good, so I'm going to change all that. So I'm glad I didn't go make the passenger side one yet, but I'm going to basically redo them both and do them both to a bit of a different, newer, revised idea that I've got. So this is a Sparko. Again, I'm pretty sure it's just a rep. Pulled it out of a car that I parted out. It actually, again, used to belong to Alex Brown once upon a time. So through a few changes of hands, I've ended up with them. I've actually got two of these, but like I was saying, the backs of them don't even come up past like the back of my neck, which I don't feel like is very safe for someone of my height. But I plan on using one of these for a passenger. And as you can see, they mount different. The rail's actually bolting underneath, so that'll be a bit of a different design again to get that into the passenger side. So these are actually K70 rails from Alex's old K70 still on it. But so that's pretty much, yeah, I'll be changing that again. So there's going to be probably another episode of that. I'll work on getting some steel to build some new frames and yeah, basically redo those to something a bit more substantial and a bit nicer to look at. So anyway, worry about that later. So cheers for watching, guys. Sorry I had to take you through all my waste of time. Keep peeled for the next episode. So like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, all that stuff. Cheers guys, catch you later.